Hello ladies and gentlemen, ChessRabbitt again, and we're continuing our series on Anatoly Karpov, Dragon Killer. This is probably one of the most famous games of Anatoly Karpov's slaying the Dragon Killer series. Here Anatoly Karpov is playing white, and Viktor Korchnoi is playing black, and these guys were fighting to see who was going to play Bobby Fischer in the 1975 World Chess Championship match, which of course Bobby Fischer didn't play, and Anatoly Karpov went on to become world champion by default then. And I'm going to be following a lot of the notes from Karpov himself from Anatoly Karpov's Best Games book, our book that was published in 1996. So I'm going to take a lot of notes from there. Also, we're going to be taking some notes from the computer Stockfish and see what they think. And we shall see what happens when we look at this game. And this is another one of those games I do believe it features. I haven't looked at it in a while, but I do believe this features a queen side castle and the move h4 as in the previous game. So anyway, Karpov white, Korchnoi black. Here we go. e4, c5, f3, d6, d4. C takes d4. Knight takes d4. Knight f6. c3, g6, and here we go with the dragon variation again. Here is the pawn structure, which donates the dragon. Of course, black will fianchetto his bishop, get it along this long diagonal, and exude pressure along this way, and short castle. Black will try to develop some more pieces. And if you notice in the last game, Karpov played bishop e3. And I do believe he does so in this game also. And he will castle on the queen side and bring up h4. And we shall see what happens after that. I don't know if he brings up h4 or not. I think he does. I don't know. So we'll see. Anyway, I haven't looked at this game in a while. So as Karpov does in the last game, he played 6 bishop e3. And he does this game also. Korchnoi bishop g7, he fianchettos the bishop, f3, again protecting this pawn, the e4 pawn, and now his knight is free to do some other shenanigans if he has to. Knight c6, queen d2, now he is getting ready to castle queenside. Korchnoi castles kingside, bishop c4. Now, if you notice in the last game, he played bishop c4 first and then played queen d2. In this, now he sort of interchanged the moves, but it comes to the same position as in the last game that we've looked at. Bishop d7, h4, and there it is. Note, this position was reached before Anatoly Karpov in Mainz 2008, where Carlsen played the move bishop b3. He played this move bishop b3 because if you notice in the last game, Gilk played knight e5, attacking the bishop that was on c4, and then Karpov moved the bishop back to b3. Here, a little improvement by Anat. He already moves the knight back to b3, and Carlsen continues with c8. Anat castles queenside, e5. Now he doesn't have to move the bishop because he did before, so he's pretty much a half tempo up, and he can waste that half tempo by moving his king to safer pastures and put it on b1. That game went on to become a draw. So that is Anatoly Karpov, Mainz 2008. And we go back, rook e8. Korchnoi plays rook e8. Karpov plays bishop b3. So he pretty much did what Carlsen did. Well, Carlsen pretty much did what Karpov did, is move the bishop back to b3 before black gets a chance to play knight e5, and that way you save a tempo. Knight e5, so the move is played knight e5, and now he can castle without moving his bishop. Knight c4. Here a good move would have been h5, stopping white from advancing to h5 himself, and play bishop h6, and this position would have been equal. Also, also in this position of h5, king b1 could have been played, and that way you have an equal position. Your king is already on this nice square protected by these 3 pawns, where black's pawns are extended here, and we're looking at the safer king. White's king is a lot safer than black's king once these pieces start getting exchanged off. So we have knight c4 here. Now, interesting enough, in the game Anatoly Karpov, the World Championship match in 1995, Anatoly plays bishop takes c4 here, rook takes c4, knight de2 to protect this pawn, b5, bishop h6, queen a5, getting an attack on White's king side, bishop takes g7, king takes g7, knight f4, and White comes to attack this side. And this was a nice win by Garry Kasparov, who played it. Like I said, Anatoly had the white pieces, Kasparov had the black pieces, and this was a nice win. Kasparov went on to win. So perhaps that is not the way to go. But anyway, after long castles by Karpov, knight c4, bishop takes c4, rook takes c4, h5. Now, like I said, you could have played h5 a couple of moves ago to sustain what was going to happen here, but to prevent White from playing h5, but that didn't happen. So now he has this built-in attack. Knight takes h5, g4 attacking the knight, f6, knight bd2. Now this knight, now the knights are protecting each other. Queen a5, black is bringing in his pieces on the queen side, a little closer to black's king. White still hasn't gotten to the attack over here yet, but he will soon. Bishop h6. Now here we go with the exchange of the dark square bishop. Remember, black's main thing for this dark square bishop is to exude pressure along this diagonal. Once this bishop is gone, which will happen in most of these games, then black's attack is diminished considerably. This bishop is a very important piece in this dragon variation. But as you can see, it can also be exchanged pretty quickly. Bishop h6, queen h6, rook f8. Now, up to this point, both players have been following standard chess theory. In other words, this position has been played over and over and over again. This position right here has been debated by lots of players. Look up this position and you will see lots of games. But now Karpov plays something different. Rook d3. Now, Karpov says in his book, only this move at the time was a novelty. By overprotecting c3, White frees the e2 knight to participate in the attack over here on the king side. The theoretical paths of 19 bishop b5 or 19 g5 bring White no great advantage, and therefore Korchnoi was certainly ready for them. But after the modest rook transfer, he plunged into deep thought. And that was Karpov. So let's look at some of the theoretical debates of 19 bishop b5, d5. Here we have d5, queen c7, bringing the queen back. Rook d3, protecting the c3 square. Queen d8, g5, knight h5, knight g3, queen f8, going into the endgame, exchanging the queens, and now exchanging the knights. Rook taking on h5 and king g7. And here we have a nice little attack building up for White with this pawn, this dangerous pawn here on g5, and the rook over here on h5. So White has a pretty good attack. So that's what happened with that move of rook b5, and that's stockfish. Korchnoi thought for a long time, and he comes up with, well, was probably one of the most decisive mistakes in the position. Rook 4 c5. This move apparently leads to a forced win for white. Another try he could have made could have been bringing the queen back to d8, then queen h4, queen a5, g5, knight h5, knight g3, queen e5, knight takes h5, g takes h5, queen takes h5, queen g7. Now notice that this queen here is protecting the h7 spot, so the battery between the rook and the queen on h7 is now protected by this piece on g7. So we have a pretty much equal position here. But that's how Korchnoi could have saved the game, by playing something passive like that. Instead, rook f5, well, rook 4 c5, g5, bringing this pawn, this dangerous pawn, attacking this knight. So the knight has to go to, now the knight has to go to g5. Rook takes g5, rook d5, bringing in some more attackers to attack his queen and the rook. So the rook is being attacked twice right now, and this rook is protected by this pawn. So now this queen either has to move, or you go right back and capture, or you could capture with the knight. Rook d5. What happens when you do capture with the knight? Well, if you capture on d5 with the knight takes d5, then we have this devastating queen takes h7, and it's all over. King f8 and queen h8. Checkmate. So we can't take with the knight because the knight is protecting this h7 square. So we can't take with the knight. Rook takes b5, knight takes b5, rook e8. Again, you cannot take this. Again, you can't take with the knight because that leaves this square unprotected, and you have the same thing. Queen takes a7, rook f8, and we saw this before. So this knight is pretty much pinned here. So Karpov brings some more reinforcement. Knight e f4. Now he's protecting this piece, and this piece also is getting into the game. A beautiful force into the game. Karpov is really bringing in all his pieces on the king side, and all of these pieces are working together. Now Karpov can take on here f6 with the threat of a fork, because he would have a check on that square. So Korchnoi would have to do something about that. Bishop c6, attacking this square. Let's say if Korchnoi in this position had to play, say, let's say queen takes a2. This is a poison pawn, because after the moves knight takes f6 check, e takes f6, knight d5, coming right back to this square to take on this, to take the pawn at f6, and also you have the fork on the rook and the bishop. Queen takes a1 check. Now the queen takes, and once the king moves, you can come after and get this rook on h1. King d2, queen a5 check, coming back to check. King e2, queen takes d5, queen a7 check, king f8, queen h6 check, king e7, e takes b5, taking the queen finally, king d8, and king d2, and white has a slight advantage. Karpov also prepared the move bishop e6. So if Korchnoi had played bishop e6 in this position, then Karpov said he prepared knight takes e6, f takes e6, knight takes f6 check, e takes f6, queen h7 check, king f8, queen takes b7, king g5 check, king b1, rook e7, queen b8 check, rook e8, queen takes a7. What you can't do here in this position, which a lot of you may see and say, how come we can't take the rook down here to check? Because once we go to king g7, and black even wins due to the threat of queen g1 checkmate, because the rook and the queen here are both on prees, and we can't have that. So queen takes a7 check, rook e7, queen b8, rook e8, queen takes d6 check, and we have a windmill. Once Korchnoi moves his king, then the queen will keep checking until he grabs the rook. So that's what's happening there. Korchnoi in his position played bishop c6, e5, boom, threatening. E takes f6 and mate to soon follow, because once, like I said, this knight here is protecting the h7 square. So once this knight falls, then we have a forced checkmate. Korchnoi decides to take the bishop b5, d5. If, like we said again, if the knight takes d5, then we're threatening again, same sequence. So that threat is still there. Well, what if the d pawn takes? What if d takes e5? Then we have knight takes f6 check, e takes f6, knight h5. Now we have a threat checkmate there on g7, queen g7. G takes h5, rook g1 check, and its mate next move. Because the king can't come, the king cannot come to f7. The king would have to move over to f8, and followed by the queen coming here, and that would be mate. So bishop takes d5, e takes f6, and do you see the mate threat? Well, by now you have seen the mate threat. Queen takes g7 mate, so we have to protect the mate. E f6, and now Korchnoi can be threatening a mate on his own, because this rook and queen are both here on this square. So if Karpov plays a move like, say, he takes the bishop here. Let's just say he takes the bishop here and he didn't see this. Well, Korchnoi could come down, rook e1 check, rook e1 check, queen takes e1 checkmate. So Karpov has to be very careful here. Of course, Karpov is no fool. He takes on h7, queen takes h7 check, king f8, and once again he's threatening mate. Queen h8 checkmate. Queen h8 check. Here Korchnoi resigns, because after queen h8 we have king e7, queen takes d5 check, queen takes d5, rook e1, the rook swings over, checks the king, queen e5, queen h4, and now this queen is lost. This queen is lost. If Korchnoi comes down to check, this queen is actually protecting the square. Check, king d7, and Korchnoi and Karpov could come over here give check to the king would have to move, and we can eat this pawn, and then we can have a nice, well, he can't take that pawn because that would be, yes he can, because he can check here, and then Karpov can move out of the way. So, and with this queen versus a rook, queen will win every time. All these pieces over here will just be getting ate up. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, Karpov. So here, queen takes h8, queen h8, and Korchnoi resigns. A great attacking game by Anatoly Karpov. Like I said, this is the second game in a series of Karpov Dragon Killer. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed the game. ChessRabbitt, see you next time. Goodbye.